Hey guys, this is Jay Calder at JAYONBOXING here giving you a preview and prediction for Canelo Alvarez versus Edgar Berlanga. But before we get started, please be sure to like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. It definitely helps out, and be sure to leave your picks down in the comments section below. I greatly appreciate it. And a little bit of fight info here. As mentioned, we have super middleweight world champion Canelo Alvarez taking on Edgar Berlanga. This will be at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada, airing on Prime and DAZN pay-per-view in the super middleweight division, with all of the gold minus the IBF title that Alvarez vacated on the line. So here we are with maybe not one of the biggest fights of the year to some degree. I mean, sure, it's a Canelo fight and it feels weird saying it's not one of the biggest, but quite frankly, it's not that highly anticipated. His choice, what he wants to do, I digress. In any event, we still have a Canelo fight, so it will have some exposure. We still have Mexico versus Puerto Rico, and we still have an event that could really do big business, regardless of if it could do bigger if Canelo is fighting other fighters. But will it deliver in terms of what we're looking for in the ring? Berlanga is a massive underdog, and many expect it might not be so competitive. Does Berlanga come of age in this fight or get exposed? Those are the kind of questions you're asking. Can the unthinkable happen? He pulls off the upset. Really hard to predict in this case because we just haven't seen him at the very top level. Before we get into breaking this fight down and my pick as to whether or not any of that kind of stuff is going to happen, let's get into some of the more interesting questions we ask heading into this contest. For starters, what's the risk for Canelo Alvarez? Well, there is considerable risk when you think about it. Not on paper, per se, not even in terms of losing as most expect him to win. However, the risk is in regards to Canelo's overall performance. How bad will it look should he look weak against a 10-1 underdog? What if he's rocked or dropped? What if it's closer than many expect, even if he wins a clear decision? Again, on paper, this shouldn't happen, but it's not on paper, it's on pay-per-view. Terrible dad joke, ignore that I said that. But it isn't out of the realm of possibility because Berlanga can crack. Truth is that Canelo, so long as he wins, will continue to be a star and rake in the dough. But from a confidence level, both of his own and for his fans, this is a guy that he needs to dispose of. So, while the risk might be small, perhaps the ramifications could be significant in some ways if those risks materialize. I would also ask, how big would this upset be? In short, huge. Forget the fact that Canelo is the big favorite. Forget the fact that hardly anyone is seriously picking Berlanga to win. It's Berlanga himself that makes this upset huge. While heavily touted as the dude that could be next up for Puerto Rico, Edgar hasn't quite panned out in terms of that output. Sure, he has this fight, but it wasn't due to the demand based on how well he has been fighting. He was, dare I say, right place at the right time. He has looked crude, has been hurt, dropped, been frustrated, and looked one-dimensional. Not trying to be too harsh here, but these are the facts. Just not the guy some thought he might be. Yes, Canelo is older and slowing down. However, regardless of age or anything else, Canelo losing to that guy, yeah, that's upset of the year. And finally, what's a good performance for either fighter? Now, as usually the case, the guy with the better odds to win in Canelo has a harder time impressing. With how big the odds favor Canelo, anything short of a beatdown or maybe even a stoppage isn't a good look. Canelo hasn't gotten a stoppage since 2021 with Caleb Plant. Since then, he seems able to hurt but not stop guys. And a guy this hittable and limited in Berlanga, yeah, he needs to put him away to be truly impressive, in my opinion. For Berlanga, really, don't get dismantled. I mean, obviously, a win is great, but a competitive showing is a real chance for cachet for the underdog, especially this size. If you can stay on your feet all 12 rounds and perhaps even make Canelo have to question a few things here and there, you're in a better spot than before you accepted the fight and the biggest payday of your career. That would definitely be a better step up for Berlanga than just him getting blown out. So obviously Berlanga has a better chance of improving, at least theoretically, but easier said than done. Now, with all that said, let's get into my pick and break this fight down. Starting off with the champion, for Canelo to win, you want to look for the left. Now, this seems obvious. The left hand for Canelo is usually going to be a preferred weapon, especially as a hook. With Berlanga, there is no exception. In fact, one might suggest, as I'm about to here, that it should be emphasized especially with Berlanga. With the way Berlanga squares up and drops his guard when he engages, someone like Canelo that can counter with power well, including with that left hand, yeah, it has to be a part of the plan. Walking Berlanga into the shot as he tries to overcommit and has all the more impact, and you should definitely look for that as well. And it even works later in the fight when you tend to sit back and wait for your moments. So make sure to incorporate that left hook, especially when he makes mistakes or when you're trying to counter and make him pay. I would also say catch him coming in. And as I sort of alluded to in that opening key, walking Berlanga into some of your power makes a lot of sense. Berlanga squares up again when he's attacking, making for a much bigger target, and he can definitely be tagged. And he gives you that look pretty consistently. He also has been dropped in those kind of moments, so you're going to look to try and capitalize there. Now, perhaps he gets a little more careful with the Canelo and tries to be more disciplined. However, you can still force those types of mistakes out of him. When attacking, look to really press Berlanga and force a response. He's not a counterpuncher, so that's going to come in a much wilder form, and you can capitalize. As mentioned, when you sit back, allow Berlanga to get more aggressive and walk him into those kinds of traps. Either way, forcing him to commit and then tagging him when he overcommits will create the double impact and put a real hurt on him. And finally, finish the fight strong. If you're going to have a major criticism of Canelo, outside of his recent fight selections in general, it's how he seems to fade late in a good deal of his fights. He puts so much into his explosive shots and building a lead that he can at times not save enough for the latter frames. Here against Berlanga, I think it's important that Canelo keep a bit in the reserve. For starters, you don't want the younger fighter thinking he still has a shot late. You want to snuff that out by making sure you keep your work rate high and you're relatively fresh in those last rounds. But also, it's just not a good look if you're tired and ragged by the final bell if it gets that far while you're in with such a heavy underdog. You need to finish strong for your own confidence and just the perception of you as a fighter. So work that left hook in, walk Berlanga into the shots, and make sure you keep enough in the tank to finish the fight strong. Now, switching over to the challenger here, for Berlanga to win, you want to get the jab going. Now, this is for a few reasons. The first being that you have the reach advantage. You're not a tremendous jabber, but you have to at least incorporate the reach you have to set up some of your work more safely. Of course, if you get it busy and landing early, it busts up Canelo and stops some of his momentum building. But it also helps settle you down, not just Canelo. It settles you down in the way that it lets you set up your work, take your time, and not get so reckless, which needs to be emphasized for you in this fight. When you just wing in big shots, Canelo will see them and counter. He's going to slip them and make you pay. So you need to blind him with that jab and keep him at bay and just occupied with something that you can throw relatively straight with some force behind it. Then proceed to throw the bigger shots. The jab settles you both down in different ways and keeps Canelo at a distance that suits you. So be sure to get it going, use some of that reach, and then let your power follow as a result of a successful jab. I would also argue don't square up. With Canelo, as I mentioned, he needs to square you up. So, don't let that happen. You can rush your work at times and get yourself lined up for those kind of big shots that Canelo's going to throw. You have to keep that from happening. You have to keep it in a good fighting stance that allows you to kind of slip some of his work coming back. You're not Pernell Whitaker. No one's going to accuse you of that. But at the very least, don't make yourself the biggest, widest target possible. You're not a defensive wizard. You can be ragged at times. You've been dropped. But just don't make it easy for Canelo. Make yourself a smaller target by keeping your feet in the right position. Use the jab to stay in a good shape, and then when you throw that power behind it, you'll be able to stay in that same sort of shape, relatively speaking, because your feet are under you correctly. If you happen to get off course, just step back and reset. Don't rush it. You have 12 rounds to try and play with this here. So don't play into his hands and stay disciplined just a bit, and don't square up so much for those big shots. Don't make it easy for Canelo. And finally, set up the right. Your best shot is probably the right hand, and you'll need to get that going here. The jab and the right hand, simple as they are, need to have success for you if you have any chance. With the right hand, it's simple. Set it up with that jab. Blind him, occupy him, and then send it home, especially at a safe distance. And the right hand can also be the shot that you throw when Canelo is looking to throw that left hook. You simply set off to your left, launch the straight shot down the middle, and be able to tag Canelo with it as he commits. His shot will, of course, maybe not get there as well based on your reach advantage and because yours is the more straighter shot. Now, Canelo has a good chin, but if you can get it home consistently, you might wear him down or at least make him pause and think, which buys you more time. So get the jab going, make sure you keep your footing in the right spots and underneath you correctly, and launch that right hand down the middle to have success in this contest. Now, in terms of my picks here, no hero calls. I'm going with Canelo. I think Canelo starts well by catching the oncoming Berlanga as he starts fast, and I can see Canelo even dropping Edgar early with a left hook. That will slow Berlanga down a bit and allow Canelo to build into the fight more as he puts together his shots well. Ultimately, Berlanga will look to commit again, especially as Canelo sits back and waits if we get to those later frames, and that's when Canelo catches Berlanga once more and drops him hard with the right hand. Berlanga may beat the count, but is finished off soon thereafter. Winner, Canelo Alvarez via late fight stoppage, though it could be a bit sooner. And in terms of the betting odds here, we have Canelo at a minus 1,600 with Berlanga at a plus 960. Wow. You also have the over-under set at an 8.5 with the over coming in at a minus 110 and the under coming in at a minus 120. Now, the only value is Berlanga. 10 or 11 to 1 is the underdog rating or him here I've seen in certain books. So hey, screw it. You have a few bucks and you want to have fun with it, go for it. Expect to lose it, but you can have fun with that Berlanga line. Canelo's line has 0 value. Terrible. Avoid it like an ex-girlfriend. The best genuine value is the over-under. It's just annoyingly set really, really well. The over and under both make sense. I'd probably go over, but again, very solid line, so it's really a pick 'em there, just kind of depending on your preference. But in any event, those are your odds. And my prediction record as of this recording is 41-16 with 22 exact. But let me know your thoughts, your bets, your picks, all that stuff down in the comments. And of course, check out all the social media up top. Check out JAYONBOXING.com. Subscribe, and of course, check out another video here. Until next time.